a tiny fuse. And that fuse was for the hydraulic gearbox pump.
Nobody expected this moment. After months of rebuilding one of the world's most expensive hypercars, Matt Armstrong finally reached the part of the Bugatti that had remained a mystery. The gearbox. What he discovered sent shockwaves through the automotive world. Hidden beneath millions of dollars worth of engineering was a problem that few people had ever seen, and even fewer had dared to question. The gearbox, often described as one of the most complex and expensive components ever fitted to a road car, appeared to hold secrets that could change the entire story of this crashed Bugatti. As bolts came loose and parts were carefully removed, every camera angle captured the tension of a man stepping into territory normally reserved for factory engineers. Was this simply accident damage, or had Matt uncovered something the public was never meant to see? The deeper he went, the more questions emerged. Suddenly, this wasn't just a rebuild anymore. It was an investigation into one of the most exclusive automotive brands on Earth. Millions of fans watched in disbelief as an independent YouTuber challenged the idea that only manufacturers can understand and repair these machines. In that moment, the gearbox became more than a mechanical component. It became the symbol of a battle between transparency and secrecy, between corporate control and the determination of one man refusing to give up. And if Matt Armstrong's discovery proves anything, it's that even the most legendary car companies may still have secrets waiting to be exposed, but the story was only beginning. As Matt and his team examined the gearbox piece by piece, the scale of the challenge became terrifyingly clear. Every component inside looked like it belonged in a Formula One car rather than a road-going machine. Precision-engineered gears, intricate electronics, and components worth more than most family homes were now sitting on a workshop bench, completely exposed to the world. The deeper they looked, the more they realized that repairing a Bugatti isn't simply about replacing broken parts. It's about understanding one of the greatest engineering masterpieces ever created. Then came the shocking discovery. Certain components showed signs that raised serious questions about what had happened before the crash, and why repairing these cars is considered nearly impossible outside the factory network. Suddenly, the narrative changed. This wasn't just about rebuilding a damaged hypercar anymore. It was about proving that determination, modern engineering, and creative problem-solving could challenge an entire industry. The internet exploded with reactions. Some people praised Matt for daring to go where few mechanics would ever attempt to go. Others warned that he was entering dangerous territory, dealing with systems so advanced that even minor mistakes could destroy millions of dollars in components. Yet Matt refused to back down. Every obstacle only pushed him further. Every unexpected problem became another puzzle to solve. And perhaps that is why this project has captured the attention of millions around the world. People aren't just watching a car being repaired. They're witnessing the impossible becoming possible. They're watching a regular workshop take on a challenge that many believed only Bugatti itself could complete. Every bolt removed, every part scanned, and every late night in the garage represents something bigger than a gearbox rebuild. It represents the idea that passion and persistence can break through walls that seem untouchable. But the biggest test was still ahead. If the gearbox could be repaired and returned to perfect working order, it would prove something extraordinary. That knowledge and innovation are no longer limited to giant manufacturers. It would show that even the most exclusive machines in the world can be understood by those willing to dedicate themselves completely to the challenge. As the pieces slowly came back together, the tension inside the workshop continued to rise. One mistake could end the project forever. One missing part could delay the rebuild for months. Yet despite the risks, Matt pressed forward, knowing that the entire automotive world was watching. Because this was no longer just a story of a crashed Bugatti. This had become the story of a man determined to uncover every secret hidden inside one of the world's greatest hypercars, and prove that sometimes the biggest discoveries are found where nobody dares to look. As the rebuild entered its most critical stage, the gearbox became the center of attention. Every expert who looked at the project had the same question. Could this incredibly complex transmission ever work again? The Bugatti gearbox isn't just another automotive component. It is a masterpiece of engineering designed to handle nearly unimaginable levels of power and speed. Replacing it can cost hundreds of thousands of dollars, and repairing it outside the factory system is something very few people have ever attempted. Yet there was Matt Armstrong, standing in his workshop, refusing to believe that the impossible couldn't be done. The pressure was immense. Around the world, millions of viewers were waiting for answers. Some expected the project to fail, believing that the gearbox would become the final obstacle that ended the rebuild. Others saw something different, a chance to witness automotive history being made. Every update brought new surprises, new challenges, and new discoveries that made the story even more dramatic. Then came another realization. The damage was more complicated than anyone had expected. Tiny imperfections and hidden problems began appearing one after another, turning what seemed like a straightforward repair into an engineering nightmare. But instead of giving up, Matt and his team became even more determined. They scanned parts, measured components to the smallest detail, and searched tirelessly for solutions that many thought simply didn't exist. The workshop transformed into a battlefield of ideas and innovation. Long nights became early mornings. Tools covered every surface, and the pressure continued to build. Every member of the team understood that they were attempting something that could change the way people think about repairing hypercars forever. If they succeeded, it would send a powerful message across the automotive world that determination and knowledge can challenge even the most exclusive manufacturers. But perhaps the most incredible part of this journey wasn't the gearbox itself. It was the spirit behind the project. Every setback became motivation. Every obstacle became another reason to keep pushing forward. In an era where many expensive machines are considered too complex to repair, Matt Armstrong was proving that curiosity and persistence can achieve remarkable things. As the final pieces of the gearbox slowly came together, the atmosphere inside the garage became electric. The moment of truth was approaching. Soon, the engine would roar back to life, and the rebuilt Bugatti would face its biggest test yet. If everything worked, it wouldn't just be a victory for one YouTuber or one workshop. It would become one of the most remarkable comeback stories the automotive world had ever seen. Because sometimes the greatest discoveries aren't hidden inside secret laboratories or billion-dollar factories. Sometimes they are uncovered by people who simply refuse to accept that something can't be done. And that's exactly why the world couldn't stop watching Matt Armstrong and the gearbox that may have revealed more than anyone ever expected. Then came the moment nobody could have predicted. With the gearbox nearly reassembled and the final checks underway, the entire project seemed to hang by a thread. One incorrect measurement, one damaged sensor, or one tiny mechanical failure could turn months of work into an expensive disaster. The workshop fell silent as every member of the team realized just how close they were to either making history or watching the dream collapse. For Matt Armstrong, this wasn't just about fixing a Bugatti anymore. It had become a mission to prove that passion and determination can challenge even the biggest names in the automotive world. Every sleepless night, every frustrating setback, and every impossible problem had led to this single moment. The gearbox that once looked like an unsolvable puzzle was now slowly returned to life. Piece by piece, as news of the rebuild spread. Car enthusiasts around the world began asking the same question. If an independent workshop can rebuild one of the most complicated hypercars ever made, what else is possible? Suddenly, the project represented something much bigger than one damaged car. It became a symbol of innovation, creativity, and a belief that knowledge should never be locked away behind closed doors. The pressure continued to rise. Cameras were rolling. Tools were set aside, and everyone waited for the ultimate test. The key would soon be turned, and the rebuilt machine would either prove the doubters wrong or become another cautionary tale about attempting the impossible. You could almost feel the tension in the air. Millions of people watching around the world knew they were witnessing something extraordinary. And then, as the final preparations were completed, one thing became clear. No matter what happened next, Matt Armstrong had already achieved something remarkable. He had taken a project that many consider impossible and turned it into one of the most fascinating automotive journeys ever seen on YouTube. He had opened up one of the world's most exclusive hypercars and shown people the incredible engineering hidden beneath its bodywork. But the biggest chapter was still waiting to be written. Would the gearbox perform perfectly? Would the rebuilt Bugatti finally return to the road? Or were there still more secrets hidden deep inside the machine, waiting to be discovered? Only one thing was certain. The story was far from over, and the entire automotive world was holding its breath, waiting to see whether Matt Armstrong's greatest challenge would end in triumph or reveal an even bigger mystery hidden inside the legendary Bugatti as the day of the first startup finally arrived. The atmosphere inside the workshop was unlike anything the team had ever experienced. There were no jokes, no celebrations, and no distractions, only silence and anticipation. In front of them sat a machine that had once been written off as nearly impossible to repair. The legendary Bugatti, with its complex gearbox and mysterious problems, was about to face the ultimate test. Matt took one last look at the car. Months earlier, it had arrived as a wreck, a damaged hypercar that many believed would never drive again. Since then, every challenge had seemed bigger than the last. Parts were unavailable, costs were astronomical, and every new discovery created even more questions. Yet somehow, against all odds, the project had reached this incredible moment. The key turned. For a split second, nothing happened. Then suddenly, the workshop came alive. Electronics flickered into action. Systems began communicating, and the car seemed to wake from a long sleep. Every person in the garage held their breath. They knew that the gearbox, the very component that had caused so much controversy and uncertainty, would soon reveal whether all their hard work had been worth it. As the engine fired into life, an incredible feeling swept through the room. Months of stress, frustration, and doubt disappeared in an instant. The sound wasn't just a roar of a powerful engine. It was a sound of persistence paying off. It was proof that impossible projects can become reality when people refuse to quit. But there was still one final mountain to climb. Starting the engine was only the beginning. The real challenge would come when the Bugatti moved under its own power. Would the gearbox shift smoothly? Would hidden problems appear once the car was driven? Or had Matt Armstrong truly conquered one of the greatest automotive puzzles ever attempted outside a factory? The world waited for answers, and perhaps that's why this story has become so captivating. It isn't only about a gearbox, a crash hypercar, or a YouTube series. It's about determination in the face of overwhelming odds. It's about taking on challenges that others consider impossible and refusing to accept defeat. Every great achievement begins with someone willing to ask a simple question: what if it could be done? Now, standing on the edge of automotive history, Matt Armstrong was closer than ever to proving exactly that. If the Bugatti completed its journey back to the road, it wouldn't simply be another repaired supercar. It would become a symbol of passion, ingenuity, and the idea that even the most exclusive machines in the world could be understood by those brave enough to try. And if the gearbox truly held secrets that nobody expected, then one thing is certain: the story of this Bugatti is far from finished. In fact, its most dramatic chapter may only just be beginning. As the rebuilt Bugatti rolled forward for the very first time, a wave of emotion swept through the entire workshop. The impossible had become reality. The gearbox that once seemed like an unsolvable mystery was now doing exactly what it had been designed to do. Every shift, every movement, and every sound from the car felt like a victory against the odds. Months of uncertainty, sleepless nights, and endless problem-solving had all led to this single moment. But this journey was never just about fixing a broken hypercar. It was about challenging limits. It was about proving that passion and determination can accomplish things that even experts consider impossible. Matt Armstrong didn't simply rebuild a Bugatti. He opened the door to a world that very few people ever get to see. He showed millions of viewers the incredible engineering hidden beneath the surface and reminded everyone that innovation often comes from those willing to take risks. For every person who said the project couldn't be done, there was now a running, driving Bugatti standing as proof that they were wrong. The gearbox that once raised so many questions had become the symbol of an extraordinary achievement. It represented perseverance, curiosity, and the refusal to give up, no matter how difficult the challenge became. And perhaps that's the real reason this story captured the world's attention. Because deep down, everyone loves to see the impossible become possible. Everyone loves to watch someone take on a challenge that seems far too big and somehow find a way to succeed. As the garage doors slowly closed and the engine's roar faded into the distance, one thing became perfectly clear. This wasn't the end of a rebuild. It was the beginning of a legend, because years from now, people won't just remember the crashed Bugatti or the mysterious gearbox. They'll remember the man who refused to quit. They'll remember the workshop that dared to challenge the impossible. And they'll remember the moment when one determined creator proved that even the world's most exclusive machines can't hide their secrets forever. The gearbox has been exposed. The mystery has been solved. And Matt Armstrong's Bugatti journey will go down as one of the most incredible automotive stories ever told. Some cars make history on the road, but this Bugatti made history in the garage. And as the lights in the workshop finally dimmed, there was one last realization that nobody could ignore. This story was never really about metal, carbon fiber, or a multi-million-dollar gearbox. It was about courage. The courage to take on a challenge so enormous that failure seemed almost guaranteed. The damaged Bugatti arrived as a symbol of defeat, a hypercar many believed would never run again. But through determination, creativity, and an unwillingness to accept the impossible, it became something entirely different. It became proof that limits exist only until someone decides to push beyond them. For Matt Armstrong, the journey wasn't simply about rebuilding a car. It was about rewriting the rules. It was about showing the world that passion can compete with prestige, that independent minds can solve problems once thought untouchable, and that even the greatest engineering mysteries can eventually be uncovered. As the engine echoed one final time to the workshop, it sounded like more than just mechanical success. It sounded like victory to victory for every dreamer who has ever been told you can't. A victory for every mechanic who has ever faced an impossible repair, and a victory for everyone who believes that determination can overcome even the greatest obstacles, because legends aren't created when everything goes according to plan. Legends are created when everything falls apart and someone finds the courage to rebuild it anyway.